connections on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. Checking the connections 516-418-5867. The number to call in. The Lawyer Henderson podcast show is on today. Hello, 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 hello. How is everyone on this lovely Sunday? I heard they said that this was a holiday. What is that, Easter? Today is Easter. Well, I don't celebrate holidays, so. But if you do, it's all right with me. Happy Easter to all of y'all who basically celebrates it. I don't. But anyway, how's everyone today? Lawyer Henderson podcast. And while you're basically celebrating your Easter, I'm going to be here giving you that work, as I always do towards the white supremacists. I like to give them that work, simultaneously working on film projects, of course. Because, of course, let's be honest, we have to go to the white supremacists to do things anyway. Even though we call them out, they're controlling and running the whole system. So we still have to go there. We can't kid ourselves, okay? We have to go to the system. It doesn't matter if we're taking their money or we're working in their establishments. We still have to, they're running the system. So all we can do is just speak out on it, of course, and that's what we do on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am on. Hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. The Lawyer Henderson podcast show starts now, and you're on here. Let's go. Let's get it. I don't know why my We're in the building. 516-418-5867, rather. That's the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. The number to call in is also your YouTube video and also on Instagram. Hit that thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Lawyer Henderson podcast. Today we have an interesting show to talk about. We're talking about the Capitol Police shooting, and they're talking about this Noah Green being the suspect, and he is dead. We also going to be talking about the Chavin trial, how they're trying to basically spin this, how they're trying to show the world that not only is white men dangerous, well, if you're going to say white men dangerous, well, we have to also watch out for those niggers. That's what they're trying to spin this is. This is the propaganda. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. And finally, we also going to be talking about how the government recruit crisis actors. Okay? We're going to be talking about that. We're going to give you a little lesson in learning about what crisis actors have been doing. They do the same thing that as far as casting in a film. I'm working on the movie Davion and Michaela. It's a film that I'm working on. And like I said, it's the same kind of process. It's casting. Okay? And that's what crisis actors have to do. If they want to become government crisis actors, they have to also cast, right? Just like a film. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. 516-418-5867 You're listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. And so we have to always talk about white supremacy because white supremacy is a dangerous tool and a dangerous system. White supremacy has become so dangerous that the New York Times is now saying, "Oh, wait a minute now. Gee, white supremacy used to be David Duke. White supremacy used to be the Ku Klux Klan." You understand? The New York Times basically is saying, thought that, well, if we can trick the American people to say that white supremacy is these white supremacist organizations, we can always do what we can inside government and racism inside white institutions and colleges and universities and other institutions, including the government. You see, the government is based upon white supremacy. See, but they've been tricking us for so long into thinking that white supremacy is just this organized group of white men and women who basically is waving the Confederate flag everywhere, and they honor people like General Robert E. Lee, and they basically are the David Dukes of the world. No, 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 no. You see, you got to educate yourself. That's the reason why a lot of Black people have been finding themselves in different situations because they don't understand global white supremacy. Okay? And we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about what the propaganda mean, about what they're trying to do and claiming that this Black dude, Noah Green, shot these two police officers and basically ran up against this barricade. We're going to be talking about why the white media is so dangerous, so dangerously trying to basically get the narrative about white men and how they've been basically the most dangerous males who have been causing all kinds of violence against people. You understand? Violence against, and they recognize this. Some of their own women are basically turning their back on them and saying, "Yeah, y'all have been violence to people." You see the narrative that Black people are basically out here attacking Asians. See, they always want to include the Black man in all of their lies and propaganda, and so therefore they can show the world, well, see, you cannot just say it's white men. Look at that nigger. He shot a white police officer and shot blah 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 blah. And they're also actor attacking Asians. That's the narrative that they're trying to paint for the world because the world is watching the Derek Chauvin case. You understand? So so you have to help to project on people. Amos Wilson, our famous great elder, talked about this. He basically says that the media is designed to what? Manufacture and project upon different things. It takes the original blame from the perpetrators onto the victims. And then you start counting noses. So they can justify putting you in jail, putting you in the system. You see, the system of white power is not going to basically stand on morality. And the reason why the system of white supremacy don't stand on morality is because the system was not designed to do so. The white supremacists have to always be irrational. That's the only way that you can run a system. It cannot operate on justice because the system was what? Founded on injustice. You understand? And our teacher, Amos Wilson, had taught us that. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, keep on, having your comments on the podcast chat in the live chat. Go ahead and leave your comments. Also on this video on YouTube, leave your comments, and you can also call in 516-418-5867 if you disagree with us. You can always call in to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. But before we get deep into that particular story, I want to basically say to you that we are monitoring the situation with DMX. DMX has suffered a heart attack, and he is in the hospital. So shout out to that brother. We're trying to basically, prayers and everything, hoping that brother will pull through. Okay, so that's the breaking news coming out of Los Angeles. I think it is. The DMX is suffering a heart attack, right? DMX is suffering a heart attack. So we're hoping that brother pulled through. They're saying that it's not looking good for him. And man, a lot of brothers dying over, you know, a lot of things as far as health issues and drugs and things of that nature. And so we have to basically make sure that we stay away from that, because the white supremacists, they like when black people, fall victims to drugs and fall victims to crime and kill, murder. The white supremacists, you're helping the white supremacists at that point. Okay, they like when you basically scrun out on drugs. They like to hear black women say, "I want to kill myself and commit suicide." They like all of that kind of stuff. They like when you give up, because basically you're not recognizing the true problem, and that is white supremacy. You understand? 516-418-5867. That is the number to call in to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. We have a good show for you. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe, family. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. Now, watch this. Watch this, family. Watch this. All right. 516-418-5867. That's the number to call in. So today on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show, hit that thumbs up button. We're live on Instagram. We're live on ScrewTube. ScrewTube has always tried to limit us. They try to erase our comments. ScrewTube has been basically making sure that the black media does not come out aggressively so that we can challenge the white media and their lies and propaganda. ABC News was the first one to come out with this propaganda about black people attacking agents. You even had some cool Negro on television talking about most of these attacks are coming from black men. And as Tariq Nasheed had pointed out, these are not foundational or black natives that the white media get to, basically interview. These are black folks that's coming from the Caribbean, coming from other parts of the world, that's trying to make a name for themselves, that's trying to be tethered, trying to take over and replace us in these positions. They want to replace us. You see, they have abandoned their own economies. They know that we built the most biggest economic system in the world. And so every other country and their people are wanting to come over to basically be a part of something that black people created. You understand? They want a piece of the real American dream, stuff that we fought for. Okay. Well, let's just recap, family, can we? Let's recap about this. We have white supremacists, the history of their attacks on black people, starting with Dylan Roof, Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, David Caress, Omar Mateen. You have so many white people, white men specifically, and the list goes on and on and on of murdering innocent people. So the world finally woke up in the George Floyd's case. And what they were basically saying is that this man, this George Floyd, uh, murder suspect, Derek Chauvin, oh, he has to be found guilty. You understand? They even had crying Van Jones. Everywhere you see this man, he's crying everywhere. They had Don Lemon. He was crying when he was trying to interview brother Cornell West, and he told Cornell West, "I got to let you go," and all this old stuff. What Cornell West said was very true. I don't think that there have been a lot of people who would just sit around and allow George Floyd, allowed somebody to keep their knee on somebody's neck, especially if that was my brother and sister. I couldn't let that happen. I couldn't let that happen. You understand? I would have pushed that officer if he did that to my brother and sister. I would have pushed him. We would have just had to fight. You understand? That's really what Dr. Cornell West was saying to Don Lemonade. I mean, I wouldn't just sit there and of course, none of these people didn't know. I don't think they knew George Floyd. I don't think they were relatives of him. But the ideal is that you basically will not allow that to happen if that's your kinfolk. And that just reminds me of the foolishness and the ignorant thing about what Ricky Smiley was talking about the other day. And the pastor, what's his name? T.D. Jakes. T.D. Jakes and Ricky Smiley, which, of course, in different industries, they were out there talking about, there's some people, even if it's family, you need to let them go. This kind of talk about letting go of family coming from these people, that's suspect to us. That is very suspect to us. And that's the reason why we can't take Ricky Smiley to be a person that we can rely on as far as media. You see, Ricky Smiley and D.L. Coonley, you have to watch these Negroes now. And it's over the age of 41. You even have to probably watch me sometimes. Because see, when you hit that 41 mark, you basically become that old coon. And you got to really watch these older black men and women who sit there and try to justify white supremacy. And then on top of that, will turn their back on their own family. See, we have a system that forces us to set up our own family, forces us to turn our back on our own family. That's the reason why this is not a true democracy. This is not a system that is ran and operated under the concept of God. That's the reason why a lot of you got people going to church, but those folks are not going to a church of God. You understand? But no, I don't want to get off the subject here. That's a subject for a different show. But I want to talk about American white male violence. I called this white supremacy. I said I was going to bring him onto the show. I said I was going to call him. I said, yeah, you can go ahead and set up the meeting. I was going to call him fair and square because I like to sometimes hear from the white supremacists, even these bootlicking Negroes. I have them call my show, okay? And the white supremacists, this Zachary guy said, yeah, I'll call your show. We can discuss the definition of white supremacy. Then he just texted me and said, oh, well, I can't come on your show because it's Easter. Fine, okay. And I didn't even realize it was Easter because, I don't follow holidays like that. But I said, okay, fine. Okay, fine. But see, like I told you, this was a white boy, who had called me a monkey on my show. And I told him, I said, listen, okay, are you going to come one-on-one with me And of course, he's not going to do it. You see, a wise man once said that the white supremacists are not real men. They only believe and think that they're men when they have a gun in their hand. They are cowards to the core. Remember how wise man once said that? But no, no, no. Let's go ahead and get into it, lawyer, right? So we have these people out here, like your Dylan Roofs, your Kyle Rittenhouse, your Terry Nichols, your Timothy McVeigh, your David Caress. We have a lot of these white male terrorists out here. And the media cannot do anything. They try to find some way to spin it, and they're having problems. And their crisis actors before did not really work. So they have to manufacture propaganda, try to get crisis actors, and try to help into their own propaganda. And it's not working. They're losing. Come on. They are losing, if you will, the mindset of the American people. You see, there's a private organization behind the government that runs it. And what they say is what the country is going to move towards. So it is about getting the anti-Black racism off the news media, out of stories across the country, because that'll then tell the people of the world, see, we've been telling y'all Negroes that white supremacy is the problem. We've been telling y'all Chinese and Asian people that there's no anti-Asian attack or hatred against you. It is the white supremacists. So they have to help in the deflection of that. They have to change the narrative. And that's where this Noah Green come in. You see, you have to look at why the so-called Black suspects that do not survive, Michael Johnson in Dallas, we only heard from the police in that situation. You understand? We got the black chick that they said that did a crime as well that looked like that tomboy not too long ago. They said she did a crime. Again, she died. Now you got Noah Green. Noah Green. He died after supposedly shooting two police officers. One is dead. You see, when it's black suspects, the question you have to ask yourself, there's two major questions. Number one, why couldn't they not take him in without any harm done to him like they do the white supremacists when they attack people? And number two, why is it that when it's a black suspect, we cannot never hear about the victim? We have to hear about the victim from the white media. You see, this Noah Green cannot tell his story because we don't know what the truth is. I want to talk to you about a different approach here because, see, we the black media. Let's say, for instance, let's hypothetically say that Noah Green was driving towards the Capitol. You understand? And some white police officers saw him and they start chasing him, and then he ran up into the barricade. He get out the car and say, all right, wait a minute, I didn't do nothing. And then they shoot him first, boom. And then one of the white supremacists turn around and shoot his colleague and then shoot the other one. How about it going that way? You see, I'm just thinking in the terms of a defense attorney. You understand? You got to look at the ideal as to why the black suspect never survived in these situations. You understand? Because in order to basically sell the propaganda to you, the audiences, and the people who watch this TV, or news. You have to sell it in a way until which the person cannot tell their own story. So we have to rely upon the white media to tell us. What if Noah Green took a wrong turn and basically by himself, the police said, "Get out the car, nigger." Like, okay, get your hands up. He shoots his partner, boom, and then shoot Noah. Oh, you just shot my partner. Pow, and shoots Noah Green. And then shoot another cop. And then the white media can use that as a way to say, you see, these black men are violent. You see, it's so amazing how black men, how we basically love fighting for this country, we defend this country for so long, and yet we allow it to destroy and slander our names. We allow it to oppress us. We allow it. We even have black men out here talking about, shit, I'm the chief, I'm the first chief of police. I'm the head of this county board. You see, Negroes are caught up in titles. You understand? They're not caught up into understanding the manufactured propaganda of what white folks have done to us for so long. You see, our niceness and cowardice allows the white supremacists to manufacture lies against us. And so, therefore, that's the reason why we always talk about the older black generation and the civil rights generation on this channel, is because they have allowed their children to be set up by these white supremacists. Oh, we're going to go deep into it today. But in order to start out getting deep in it, let's talk there about what the white media is saying about Noah Green. Because we've already given you, we set the precedent of what this young man was basically had all of these accolades on him. 516-418-5867. That's the number to call in to the Lord Henderson podcast show. Understand? Thumbs up for me. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. They're telling me that it is Easter Sunday on the Lawyer Henderson podcast show, and we're talking about the Capitol shooting with Noah Green, the suspect, the black male, age 25. And we're also going to blend it in about what this means with the Chavin Trial, what the white media are trying to do as far as propaganda, and how the government casts crisis actors. We had crisis actors not only in the Sandy Hook situation, but we also had crisis actors during the 9/11 attacks. Understand? So manufactured propaganda comes very much extensive way back. Way back. Let's start us off here. The white media is saying, according to the Washington Post, family and friends concerned Noah Green was unrivaling before Capitol attack. Okay. Brenda Green said the troubling sign his brother was unrivaling built up until the night before authorities said Noah Green launched an attack outside the Capitol. I'm sorry, Brandon Green. Brandon Green said his brother was violently ill Thursday evening in a Virginia apartment they shared before he left and sent a Fort Lauderdale text that was one of their final communications. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to go and live and to be homeless. Brandon Green said, the text read. Thank you for everything that you've done. I looked up to you when I was a kid. You inspired me a lot. Okay. Now, see, let's stop right there. You understand? What black person you know that is staying with a family member text their brother and say, instead of staying with you, I want to be, homeless right now. You have family members helping you out, and you decide you want to be homeless. Doesn't make sense. It goes on to say, though, that less than 24 hours later, Capitol Police said a man crashed his vehicle into two officers at a barricade outside the Capitol before getting out of the car and charging them with a knife. At least one officer opened fire, fatally wounding him. Several people familiar with the investigation identified the suspect as Noah Green. Okay, so now they're saying that he stabbed a police officer. Is that what they're getting at? Because at first we're trying. See, I'm trying to figure out how did the officer die. I'm sorry, and most of the police officers they're wearing their their bulletproof vests, and I don't care what kind of knife you got. What the police officers use as far as their vests, you are not going to be able to take a knife and just keep chucking at them and they feel it. You understand? And number two, what police officer is going to allow a black person to charge at them with a knife? He's going to shoot and kill them there. So I'm trying to get at as to how the officer in this particular situation got killed. Stay with us here because the Lloyd Henderson podcast show always break it down. You see, Noah Green, who was in his early 20s, was remembered as a stalwart defense back on the Christopher Newport University football team before he slid into deep religiousness and paranoia that left family and friends concerned about his mental state in recent years. Okay, so now we're dealing with mental illness here, is what they're saying. Family and friends said he blamed former teammates and roommates for drugging him with Xanon. I'm sorry, did I say that right? Xanax in 2019. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you know that drug, a lot of drugs that they're producing from these science community and pharmaceutical companies, they are very, very dangerous. They can basically, medication is not designed, as we've been telling you about, it is not designed to cure you. And a lot of your mentality do go astray when you're placed on medication. That's the reason why we always said in the black media that the government is the biggest drug dealer in the world. You understand? The American government is the biggest drug dealer in the country. Family of let's go on and say that. Hold on. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe, family. So let's look at this. Come on. At first, family and friends said he blamed former teammates and roommates for drugging him with Exxon in 2019. But they was telling us that he was staying with his brother, right? So we knew that while he was in college, he was staying with one of his classmates in the dorm or what have you. It goes on to say which one teammate said most people regard it as an unmoored from reality. Noah Green felt the episode left him addicted to drugs and suffering withdrawal symptoms. Noah Green moves out into his own apartment in Newsport News, but he continued to suffer hallucinations, heart palpitations, headaches, and suicidal thoughts that could have been related to drugs or mental illness, his brother said. Now, if you look at this, so far, if you read this from the Washington Post, you are not going to be able to understand really how the police officer died. Remember, he supposedly shot a police officer or stabbed him. How did this police officer die? They're not telling you this. It says in the other deal, one officer dead after car rammed Capitol barricade. Suspect fatally shot by police. Okay, we're gonna read that story here in a minute. Brandon Green said that Noah suddenly abandoned his Newsport News apartment one day and moved to Indianapolis, saying that the drugs had inspired him to go there. When he was in Indianapolis, Noah Green began to tell his brother that people were breaking into his apartment. Mm. Brandon Green flew to Indianapolis to make sure his brother was safe. The apartment seemed secured, he said, but his brother's mind didn't seem right. A couple of months ago, Noah Green left Indianapolis and moved to Botswana, according to his brother. While in Botswana, Noah Green told his brother that his mind was telling him to basically commit suicide. He told his brother that he had jumped into front of a car and was so badly injured that he had surgery at a hospital. Brandon Green saw bruises and scars on his brother's body. Understand? So now we're talking about Botswana. You understand? So we already know, newsflash, he's not from here. Understand? Where is Botswana? In southern Africa? Botswana in southern Africa? Yeah, yeah. See? He's not a foundational black American, what Tariq Nasheed would have said. So he basically is from Botswana. About 2 weeks ago, Noah Green called Brandon Green asking for help, crying and saying he was in really bad situation and really bad shape. Brandon said he asked to move in with Brenda, and the brother obliged. You understand? Now, get this. The white media had said that he had sisters and brothers, right? Um, when you look at now the situation of whether or not that he has sisters and brothers shows you most likely that the other family members could be back in South Africa, right? That's the reason why the white media is liking this story. Because, in a sense, you cannot get a foundational black American to basically agree to do something like this. It's just not on our conscious mind to help the white supremacists spin the narrative that they now need. And because of all these white men out here, and we are seeing them being the aggressor constantly. And see, they basically were liking that. Remember, they had people like Rush Limbaugh. Now they got people um, Jared Taylor or Breitbart. You see, the ideal here is that the white supremacist media had to use a black dude and his kid and people who is from another nation in order to help in their spin of propaganda. That's the reason why when I called this white supremacist and said, hey, come on over here and talk to me about white supremacy, he didn't oblige. Why? Because they basically speak irrational. They look at what certain types of black men who really got mental issues do and say, well, see, is that not racism? Did that black dude do that? But you have to put him on medication. You got to put her on medication for them to act that stupid. Now, like I said, mind you, Noah Green family coming all the way from South Africa. Well, that's a problem within itself. The Pope. Now, how did he get the name Green? That well, I shouldn't have asked that question because a lot of people in Africa they use those European names. So that was stupid for me to even ask. But anyway, a post on Noah Green's Facebook page on March the 17th said that these past few years have been tough, and these past few months have been tougher. You understand? So this is what it comes down to. It comes down to, wait a minute, we get a person from South Africa who is willing to come into the United States, says that he is a member of the Nation of Islam, and then he practices and follows the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and then on top of that, suggests then that he's a native black person by, in our opinion, changing his name to Noah Green. You understand? I mean, the white supremacists, it doesn't matter where they find him, whether they find him in South Africa, whether they find him in Nigeria, whether they find him in the Caribbean, in order to spin a narrative, it has to always be somebody from a black person who is from an immigrant background. It goes on to say here from the Washington Post that on his Facebook page, Green listed himself as a follower of Farrakhan, an apparent reference to Louis Farrakhan, leader of the black nationalist group Nation of Islam. See, they never let it go. They never let it go here. Green last post links to a video of Elijah Muhammad, founder of the Nation of Islam, that Green said was a divine warning to us all during these last days of our world as we know it. In the March 17 post, Facebook post, Green wrote, his life had been on the right track. Before he was hobbled by drugs he was unknowingly taking, which appeared to be a reference to the incident allegedly involving his former teammates. You understand? So let's stop right there. See, this is the reason why you have to analyze what the white media says, because language is very important. You see, the white supremacists like to skip over language of certain types of words, and they use these words very skillfully. You understand? That's the reason why black people get so much in trouble when they sign these contracts. And you have a lot of black people who are in contracts and home contracts and mortgages that they wish they didn't get into. Why? Because of the language and the information. You see, a white supremacist can scare a black person so badly when they sign their name on a dotted line, whether it be a mortgage, whether it be a car loan, whether it be you're basically becoming an organ donor, whatever the situation is, the language that is in that form. That's the reason why white people have to give you a stack of forms. Boom. Hey, I'm here, nigga. Sign those forms. And that helps them to basically say, now we got your signature and your initials right here, nigga. Why? Because they basically, like these attorneys do, they have language inside those forms that will confuse you. You'd be like, damn, I didn't say I did all that. Wait a minute, what's going on here? I agree to this, I agree to that, I agree to that. You understand? So the propaganda machine is very important. But let's go back and read that again. He said there, they said the white supremacist media said on the Facebook page. Now, keep in mind, they deleted his Facebook page, so we couldn't see it. We couldn't see the post of what they do. How it is always convenient for the police and the white supremacist media who basically coordinate with each other. Well, how is it always convenient that they can never produce any evidence against a black so-called suspect? Okay, they, it's just amazing me how they basically cannot show us evidence. See, with the white boys, we got evidence everywhere. When they shoot and kill up and shoot up in these schools, evidence is everywhere. But with a black suspect, you don't have enough evidence of this man shooting these officers or what have you. But at the same time, we have to listen to you, the white media, and what you say. No, 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 no. Mm-mm. Now let's read that again. It says on his Facebook page, Green listed himself as a follower of Farrakhan. An apparent reference to Louis Farrakhan, leader of the black nationalist group Nation of Islam. Green last post links to the video of Elijah Muhammad, founder of the Nation of Islam, that Green said was a divine warning to us all during these last days of our world as we know it. In the March 17 post on Facebook, Green wrote his life has been on the right track before he hobbled by drugs he was unknowingly taken, which appeared to be reference to the incident allegedly involved his former teammates. Understand? So we know that the Nation of Islam don't teach you to be violent. The first thing that they basically try to do is to get you off drugs. You see, and cleaning up your communities. So this man couldn't have been a follower of the Nation of Islam. And typically, these immigrants that they use typically don't like black people. They don't even hang around us. So let's get this straight. Some black dude who is from Boswaz, whatever, however you say his name, but he's from South Africa. He didn't change his name to Noah Green because, or let's say he didn't change his name to Noah Green. Folks, most of his family has to be in South Africa. That's the only way that they can get away with saying this. Because typically, if this man was born in the United States, you would have had his cousins and relatives and say, yeah, they put him on all kinds of medication. I knew nothing was right about this. No, they can't be talking about my cousin like this, blah, 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 blah. And it will go on and on and on and on. Why? Because you have a lot of family members who was raised up with this guy. You see, as a foundational Black American, as a Black native, people who were born in America, we will not allow the white media to just basically say this about our loved ones. And that's the purpose of killing him. You understand? But the Washington Post still don't tell us how the officer died here. Let's talk about it. Let's go into more depth, if you will, to. And I said in quote here, well, it said in quote, since childhood, my faith has always carried me through the toughest of the battles, the Post read. I was able to graduate with distinction, earn a well-paying job straight out of college, and pursue my graduate degree, despite not growing up in the best of circumstances. End quote. So what Black man is a successful football player, gets a graduate degree, and then decided that at first I was moving in and hanging around and roommating with classmates. Then I decide I'm going to go homeless, so I'm just going to drive around because I don't want to stay with my brother no more. Folks, it's not adding up. Oh, and I expect I love the Nation of Islam and I like Louis Farrakhan and blah 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 blah. But I'm going to go out there and kill myself after this. Family, this does not make any sense. It does not make no sense. It goes on to say that Andrew Turan, a featured writer with the Louisville Courier Journal and a former teammate of Green's at the Christopher Newport University, got a glimpse of that of Noah Green. He described him as a solid athlete during the one season he played with him starting in 2017. He was a guy that was pretty smiley, but he was quiet, Turan said. Green was born in Fairleigh, West Virginia, and has 7 sisters and 2 brothers, according to the football roster. Turan said Green became more religious after leaving the university. He said people grew concerned about Green after he publicly accused his former teammate of drugging him. Okay, so he was born in Fairleigh, West Virginia, with 7 sisters and 2 brothers. That is suspect because now they're relying upon a football roster. That's suspect. Why would a football roster have his family members on it? When I played football, hell, we didn't have the names of our sisters and brothers on the roster. That don't make sense. And even in colleges and playing professional football, that's not necessarily to do that. So it is according to a football roster, which basically anybody could write that. He had 7 sisters and 2 brothers, and nobody is talking about, well, my brother did not do that. He was on medication, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Suspects. It's suspect. You see, the white media has always tried to undermine credibility of reality. You see, they have to basically manufacture propaganda. Let's put this in perspective. This man came from South Africa, period. That's the reason why you ain't hearing from his sister and brothers, but you're only hearing from his brother, Brandon. And the ideal here is that it still seems as if all of his family members are still in South Africa. Why would they still be living in West Virginia? I don't understand this. And not saying anything or not coming to their brother's defense. Is the white media ignoring them to basically wanting to talk about this? But they're saying that he was from Botswana. You understand? In South Africa. So we knew that he wasn't a black American. We knew that. You see, how the media use and how the police use the immigrants against us, this goes on to say here that he was really paranoid from that point moving forward, Turan said. Damian Jiggets, 22, said Green was a model student athlete at CNU, who showed no signs of mental health struggles or other issues. He was a stand-up guy, said Jiggets, who graduated last year. He was on the dean's list. He was a motivator. That was the Noah I knew, and regardless of what happened today, that is what his legacy should be. He should be remembered as a positive guy. Jiggett said he first met Green when Green transferred. Wait, hold on. He said he first met Green. Hold on. When Green transferred to CNU, the two competed for minutes at the same position, safety. But Green was always encouraging. They hung out a couple of times outside of games and practice, said Jiggets, who described Green as a reserved, quiet, and to himself, but also said the person who you could talk to. Jiggets said that he had last saw Green in the fall when he happened to spot his car going over a bridge in the Hampton Road area while they were both stuck in traffic. Jiggets said he pulled up alongside his former teammate and they had a quick, friendly conversation with the windows down. He said he is doing good, Jenkins recalled. He hadn't thought of Green again until Friday when another teammate sent Jenkins a news article naming Noah as the suspect in a Capitol attacks. Jenkins clicked on the link and saw another car driving by Green, crumbled in a barrier at the Capitol. End quote. This is suspect. This is really, really suspect. And that's the reason why Noah Green is dead, because the police is not going to allow any black person to tell their side of the story. They're just going to say, well, he basically was the suspect. That's all you niggers need to know. So we knew that propaganda was a part of this. The ideal here that how was that claim that Noah Green followed the Nation of Islam and Louis Farrakhan, and how was that any happened to do with any kind of thing that is in question here as far as whether or not he did this murder? We have not seen the Nation of Islam as violent. We have not seen them as basically telling, saying to people, you're homeless. Go out there and don't stay with your brother no more. Go out there and be homeless on your own. It just didn't make sense here. And see, that brings me to the Derek Chauvin trial. See what they're trying to do, because see, the world is listening to here. What they're trying to do is they're trying to spin the narrative. Excuse me. They're trying to spin the narrative. Now, Botswana has over 2.225 million people, right? They have let's say 225 million people. Botswana, right? So we can say arguably that Green may have came over to the United States when he was a child and went to West Virginia where they moved, coming though from South Africa. You understand? So we knew that he was not a black person born in the United States. And that's important for us to understand, because I'm trying to figure out why the white media never, ever, 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 ever can report the fact that the suspect has always been shot and killed every time that the police are claiming that he is a suspect as a black person. We cannot seem to get a black suspect, so-called, into the squad car without any kind of harm done to them by the police. But yet, this white supremacist who shot and killed these Asians, he was able to go into the squad car without any harm done. Other white supremacists who shot up schools, one of them, the police took to Burger King, McDonald's, or one of them, right? Remember? But it seems that when the suspect is supposedly black, we just cannot get this person into the squad car without being shot and killed. That's interesting to me. Very interesting. And when we cannot do that, we cannot what? Hear the side of the story of that person. We have to, like I said earlier, rely upon the white media, and that's dangerous. Family, have you noticed that they've been putting black people in certain types of positions? All of a sudden, a black woman, she's the acting chief of the Capitol Police. You have a lot of black people who are out here talking about, oh, shoot, I'm the first black police chief in this and that city and that town. Family, you got to understand that black people, we are helping our own oppression when we work with side by side with these white supremacists. But we're going to get into this officer's been shot and killed or stabbed with a knife. Let's go ahead and figure out how did uh, this Noah Green supposedly had killed this officer. The article again in the Washington Post. I'm giving them the credit. I'm giving the Washington Post credit here. Fair use, though. Fair use. One of the officers dead after car rams Capitol barricade. Suspect fatally shot by police, official says. Okay? One Capitol police officer was killed and another injured Friday when a man crashed his vehicle into them near the U.S. Capitol, an attack that once again put the city on edge. A threat stemming from the deadly insurrection in January has started to wane. Now, see, Wayne or whatever. See, this is what we're talking about. So all of a sudden now, what he did was he ran them over. Is now what we're hearing. So we got from. So I don't know if they. Let's go ahead and read. Continue. The slain officer was identified as William Billy Evans, an 18-year-old veteran who a neighbor said was the father of two children. It was not immediately clear how he was fatally injured. Okay. Acting Capitol Police Chief Yagania Pittman said that after the officers were struck, a man excited exited the vehicle with a knife and started lunging. She said at least one police officer opened fire, killing the attacker. Several people familiar with the investigation identified the driver as Noah Green, who shared an apartment with his brother in Virginia. The brother said that Green, who was in his 20s, struggled with drugs and used the paranoia, and that his family worried about his mental state. Drug use and paranoia, and that his family worried about his mental state. Green was not known to either DC or Capitol Police, according to authorities. It does not appear to be terrorism related, acting DC Police Chief Robert J. Conti III told reporters. The incident occurred shortly after 1 p.m. on Constitutional Avenue near the Russell Senate office building, once again drawing hundreds of police officers to the Capitol and plunging the swirling complex into lockdown, with people inside the building told to stay away from the windows and those outside told to seek cover. So what I'm thinking here is that he ran one of the officers over with a car. Is that how he killed him? I mean, I don't know, man. You know, the white media is so desperate to try to change the narrative. See, it was good with that Professor Black Truth said that the white media and the police aligns themselves together. And that's the reason why they do that. That's the reason why Mark Furman is now working in the news media right now, but used to be a detective in the Los Angeles Police Department. They're back and forth. Why? Because they both have to shape the narrative here. That's the only way they can do it. Is that the media has to have certain types of people that used to be on the police force and vice versa. This right here does not make sense here at all. It does not make sense. It does not make sense because we're getting conflicting information from the white press. We're getting conflicting information from the people who are supposed to have the information and who's supposed to call the news down the line. And this is the reason why the black media has been created. Because we have to dig deeper into what's going on. Everywhere you go, and even and when you start looking at this stuff about black people doing this, it is always an immigrant, or they're always coming from an immigrant background. And it makes you wonder, is these people coming over here to be agent provocateurs for the white supremacists in this country? Is South Africa and other nations sending these people over to help these white supremacists to rationalize that, hey, y'all, it's just not white men killing. Well, these niggers, they're killing people too. Look at that Noah Green. Even though Noah Green background is not a foundational black American, he is from Botswana, South Africa. Let's talk about it here on the Lawyer Henderson podcast here. Speaking of provocateurs, this is interesting. Thumbs up, family. Thumbs up. This is interesting. And thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's go ahead and see this. Let's do another music break while I get this prepared for y'all. Thumbs up here. Okay. Thumbs up, 516-418-5867. 586 516-418-5867. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. A lot of people don't know that the government has paid government shields. They have crisis actors. What is a crisis actor? Excuse me. All you have to do is just go back to the Sandy Hook situation and look at that Robbie Parker. Crisis actors tend to help the government as shields. The difference between a crisis actor and a government and a agent provocateur is that they basically helps the government and the white media. And one of the things that you have to understand about them is that they help to shape the narrative of what is going to basically play out in the media's role when reporting the news. So you have to understand why crisis actors are needed. It's just like casting in a film. You get paid a good salary for being a crisis actor. Now, we have to break down the fact of what a crisis actor is versus an agent provocateur. Now, a crisis actor is a paid government shield that is basically hired that when there is a supposed situation and the white media is reporting it, let's say, for instance, some type of attack, the crisis actors have to come in and they have to become the family, the victims, and be a part of the victim's family, the supposed victim family. They come in, they speak with the news media, they do a lot of that. So the crisis actors can be used, and they have all kinds of pictures of them all over the internet that people know, hey, wait a minute, we saw him in another project or a film where he played the the son of a victim. And I wanted to tell you, because I am a person who is in the film business, I wanted to let you also in on the secret about crisis actors. When they use your photos in movies, let's say that you are the husband or a wife to a person who had died, and that's your character in the film. So they have a picture of that person, right? Well, that person is also the same kind of person that they cast as crisis actors, because those persons are only there to serve a purpose in your film. If I had a wife in a film, I would use a crisis actor, or not, well, not a crisis actor, but somebody will submit their their picture to me, right? And the actor may be in another country, or may be from another country. The actor can be from, let's say, in a European country, and they get paid, just like people who get paid when they are taking pictures for these internet websites where they can use your pictures online on their website, because you are paid to be a person in that picture doing certain things that people could basically use on their websites in designs, right? So a crisis actor come in, and the crisis actor is actually going into a situation where they become a family member, and they act in a sense of saying, well, this is what happened. I saw at 7:30 a.m. this guy, he came out with a gun, blah, 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 blah. You see, in the Sandy Hook situation, the young boy was on a TV show. That's when what's his name had a show. What's his name? The white CNN anchor uh, that they always talk to, the gay dude. I forget his name. Anderson Cooper. He said on the Anderson Cooper show that they were doing a drill, right? The crisis actors are the people who come in and they act as the family, the victims of the family. They are the family members of the victims, I should say. So they come in. So that's a crisis actor, right? But a government provocateur or an agent provocateur is a person who gets into organizations, and they are basically people who will try to join your organization, and they out there acting like they are pro-black, and they're the loudest one up here, but they're agents. So they only come into the organization to basically listen to the strategy of that organization. They're called agent provocateurs. Now, if you look at both of these people, they serve a purpose in the government's way. See, a lot of black people back in, they used to didn't think that the government engaged in crime. They didn't think that the police engaged in crime. Folks, when you're having about 500,000 black women and men missing in this country, as Dr. Umar Johnson pointed out, our kids and our people are getting snatched up by the government for their organs. So the agent provocateur serves a purpose to basically infiltrate organizations, and they're out there acting more pro-black than the people who are actually joining the organization because they're infiltrating. See, I have a lot of people who are basically trying to cast in my field right now, Davion and Michaela. Why? It's because they can get information about how I cast and who I use and stuff like that. Fine. You understand? So they create these fraudulent resumes and stuff. They go out and create these fake reels and stuff like that. And they're what? Feeding the government information so they can have a profile on myself and others. This is what you're calling people who comes in as agent provocateurs, paid government shields. These are people who have to get close to the person who is trying to basically want change in society. So they have to basically say, no, we don't want that to change. We want to keep on trying to suppress these people. And how we're going to do that is that these people who are talking about changing the government and literally overthrowing it or doing something, we have to then infiltrate their organization and become a member. And so therefore we can learn what they're talking about so we can report back to the government, you see. So we have to watch certain things like that. The crisis actors do a great job, though, in helping. They argued that there was some crisis actors during the 9/11 attacks, right? And they actually showed some pictures of these people who they claim died in this airplane during the 9/11 attacks. They have said that they have pointed out that some of these people were crisis actors. You see, so the white media and the police and government, they work together in producing and manufacturing all of this propaganda so that they can basically what? Have this as that is set a narrative, and then they feed you this information, and therefore it helps you to then change your mind in a view and say, well, maybe we do have a lot of black criminals out there. Them niggas need to sit down somewhere. See, we are our own worst enemy. That's what they will now say because they basically had allowed the media to change their view as to, well, black people out here killing each other too now. You see, don't be just saying it's white men. And so they have to change this narrative. They have to do that. It is a part of their particular psyche to want to get the blame off the actual perpetrators. That's the reason why this white supremacist did not want to debate me today, because he recognized one thing, right? He recognized that it's not that he's going to come on and talk to me, but he's not going to even do a live YouTube video. He blamed it on Easter Sunday or whatever. I didn't even know it was Easter today, whatever. But he blamed it on Easter because these people are cowards. They'll talk their noise as long as nobody see who they are. You understand? And so the white supremacists are very, very, very upset right now. They're running scared. They're losing their power. They're losing their power so badly that now it's going to become a problem. See, this is the reason why Derek Chauvin have to be found guilty. okay? Because it's going to basically undermine everything that Joe Biden said when him and Kamala Harris stepped into that office. You understand? That's the reason why we know that he's going to be convicted. There's no way that this man will walk free. You understand? In a sense of now knowing that so many people are just not caring anymore. They're just going to take to the streets, and every white person they see, they're going to punch out. You're going to have, it's going to be so bad that you're going to have white people beating up white people. That's how it's going to be bad because it protects them not to then get the blame where black people start going out and say like they did in Rodney King. That's what crying Van Jones pointed out. Remember, Van Jones said, um, what's that Cuomo dude from CNN asked him, what happens if this man get off? And I'm just paraphrasing. Well, it's just going to be just like what happened after Rodney King got off. What? What did you see? You saw white people getting tossed out of trucks, right? And they just start punching these people. And everywhere you go, they were the enemy. They don't want that to happen no more. And George Floyd case is going to set a precedent. These white folks about to do something about their system. Not only is the whole world watching, it's no way that you're going to be able to say that this man is going to get off. He's done. Why? Because they don't want their cities and towns to burn. They don't want us to take to the streets no more. The police is working overtime. They basically is tired. Their family members, their wives, their children saying, why you got to go back out in the street? Family, that's the reason then why the white media says, okay, if we're going to convict this man, then let's just talk a little bit. Let's bring on the EMTs. She's a white girl. Let's bring on George Floyd's. Instead of bringing on his baby mom, who he had a daughter by, well, let's bring on his white girlfriend and talk about them, having trouble with drugs and stuff like that. And so we can show that, okay, yeah, white people were outraged. And together we convicted Derek Chauvin, you see. That's what they're trying to show the world. We know their game plan. The bottom line is, though, is that this man better not get off. Period. You understand? I think that the other officers, they got a little bit of opportunity, but Derek Chauvin is through. Trust me on that. And as this guy said to Don Lemonade, Van Jones. Now, typically, every time we see Van Jones, he's somewhere crying and stuff. You see Don Lemonade crying when he was interviewing Dr. Cornel West. What's up with these black men in media crying everywhere? You understand? But the idea here is that they have no choice but to find this man guilty. I don't care how much drugs you trying to say that George Floyd did. White people are in trouble if this man get off. Period. Period. The idea here is that, yeah, you can spin a narrative and say that George Floyd, he was doing drugs and George Floyd did this and he did that and blah 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 blah. That's not gonna matter. Hold on, 516-418-5867. That's the number to call in. That's not gonna matter no more. Doesn't matter how you spend it. It's going to be a catastrophe if Derek Chauvin get off. And the white supremacists know it. There's no way. I mean, I know that the white supremacists are arrogant. I know that they are arrogant. But folks, they're playing games here. You understand? They're playing games. See, white people are so arrogant that they think, well, we're untouchable, especially white men. They like, well, no, we're untouchable. Okay, all right. But this particular case is done. We're done. The ideal here is that they might, you know, say that he killed himself in jail and then he goes and live in Australia, or he might go and stay in another country. But he's done in America. That's typically what they do. They'll fake their deaths and then they'll ship them out to another country and stuff, let them stay there for the rest of their life. But he's done in America, period. You understand? And that's today's show of the Lawyer Henderson podcast. We were going to have our Black business call in, but we're going to do that another day. But we just had to talk about this Capitol shooting with Noah Green, or Lawyer Henderson podcast show.